Today we're talking about ZipForm and Transact. This is a live Q&A. Get your questions answered. This is a loosely structured webinar. I want to make sure that we hear from you. This webinar is brought to you by the North San Diego County Association of Realtors. We appreciate them having me out to train you guys. It is my absolute pleasure to be out here training for your association. My name is Jackson Beaudelaire. I'm the Senior Transaction and Training Supervisor here at the California Association of Realtors. I've been a realtor myself since 2009, and I love real estate. I think it's a great career. It's done me and my family very well. But what I'm more passionate about than anything is educating realtors like yourselves to make sure that you are confident, competent, and efficient in this ZipForm and Transact software that is so vital to our business. This is where we get our forms. It's where we manage our transactions. It's where we get things signed. And today we are going to be answering questions about those platforms. Now, before we get too far in, everybody should be seeing this Zoom window that I'm sharing. I want to draw your attention to the audio settings. If things are not sounding the way that they should, definitely change your audio settings. And if everybody could raise their hand and let me know that they can hear the sound of my voice, I would appreciate that, so I know that I'm not speaking into the infinite void that is the internet. One of you can hear me. There's only 5, so 20%. I'll take the 20%. That's fine. Okay. Now, I know I asked you to raise your hands, and I appreciate everybody that did. For the remainder of the session, though, this is our live Q&A. I want you to use the Q&A. Type in your questions. Let me know what problems you're running into, what issues you're having with the platform. Transact was debuted in October of last year. We've had about, 6 months now? 7 months. Hopefully you've tried it. If you haven't, I hope I can show you something about it that will entice you into trying it. But we are going to be answering our live questions. I will give it a few minutes for the creative juices to get flowing. I'll give you some general guidelines. We're going to be asking questions about ZipForm and Transact, the way that they interact, what's new, what's different, how are they the same, how are they connected, what the timeline for sunsetting ZipForm is. But definitely, I need you to use that Q&A box. That's why I'm here, is to answer your noodly questions. These Q&A sessions have been very popular and very fruitful, if you will. I can go through this material in my sleep. I promise you. Sometimes I wake up talking about digital signatures. I want to make sure that you get your questions answered. So if you have a question, I can almost guarantee that someone else in the session probably has a similar question, something that maybe they're not sure exactly how to structure the question, how to ask it. So let's get the questions going. I would say that 99.9% of the issues that come to me for ZipForm and for Transact are user error. Honest to God, user error. You clicked on something you weren't supposed to. You didn't click on something that you were supposed to. And those are the types of questions, the types of issues that I want you to bring here. What frustrates you? What is giving you the most grief when it comes to your day-to-day use of this transaction management platform? So, as I said, Transact was debuted in October. ZipForm is still very much available, and it still will be available for quite a long time. The original idea was that ZipForm was going to go away at the end of this year, at the end of 2026. That is not the roadmap that we're on any longer. It's looking more like the end of 2027 is going to be when ZipForm will go away. Now, that is a moving target, though. I want to be very clear about that. That is a moving target that if things are not going well with this transition of getting people over to Transact, that will probably be pushed forward, or sorry, pushed back. And that might push into 2028. I don't think that we'll get there. I think that the adoption for Transact has gotten more positive every day. There's more and more people trying it out and understanding it and kind of wrapping their head around what the point of it is. But you've probably noticed that when you create a new transaction in ZipForm, you're asked this question: do you want to create the transaction in Zip, or do you want to create the transaction in Transact? This dialog box is very familiar to us because just a few years ago, when the new form editor was coming out and we had the classic form editor and we had the new form editor, we had a choice of how do we want to edit our forms. This is quite a different change. Back when we were choosing between the classic editor and the new editor, we were staying in the same transaction. We were staying within ZipForm. This here is a fork in the road. This is asking you, because you see this when you're in ZipForm. This is asking you, do you want to stay here in Zip, or do you want to go to Transact and start the workflow, the transaction workflow elsewhere? Do you want to start it in this other platform? Now, these platforms are parallel with each other. This is not a new ZipForm. This is a separate, just as capable platform, even more capable, in my opinion, that we can manage our transactions from Zip. We can manage our transactions from Transact. But the rule of thumb that I need you to understand is that if you start a transaction in Zip, it's going to stay in Zip. And if you start a transaction in Transact, it will stay in Transact. There is a sliver of backwards compatibility when you are in Transact. You can see your ZipForm transactions, but I will explain that when we get over there, why we have that and why that's there. But a very common question that I get from realtors is, when and how do I need to convert all my transactions from ZipForm into Transact? You don't need to do that. There will not be a need to reinvent your transactions in Transact. My advice that I've been giving people is finish out whatever you have open in Zip. If you're currently in an escrow or you've been writing offers with a client, maybe finish that out in ZipForm. The next time that you have new business to start it in Transact and try it out. ZipForm, as we'll take a look at in a second, ZipForm is very focused on the transaction, the address, the transaction, and they're very segmented from each other. If I am writing an offer for Bob Buyer on Monday, and then the next day I'm writing an offer for his brother, Thomas Buyer, and then on Wednesday, that offer from Monday didn't get accepted. Now I'm going to write another offer for Bob Buyer. Those transactions are very segmented and walled off from each other. The offer that I wrote on Monday isn't talking to the offer that I wrote on Wednesday. And it's a bit disjointed. But we're used to that. That's the workflow that we've been working with. But it's kind of like, having one tire that is a little bit bald and we just kind of get used to it and we're kind of putting up with it. We don't need to live this way anymore. There's a better way. Transact flips the ZipForm kind of structure on its head a little bit. And it's very focused on the client. So I have Bob Buyer. And when I open up Bob Buyer's file, I have the offer that I'm writing on Monday. And then I can write other offers for other people, but Bob Buyer's file is still together. And then when that first offer doesn't get accepted, I can mark it as offer rejected, and I can start up a new offer in Bob Buyer's file. So all of the offers that I write for Bob are in one place, and they're accessible, and I can cycle through them from within Bob's tile in my Transact account. Everything is focused on the client. We have a deep integration with the new CRM. So Relationships is the new CRM that is replacing LionDesk. If you're familiar, LionDesk was a Lone Wolf product that allowed us to keep track of our clients, our contact management, and Relationships is the new CRM component that is part of the bigger wheel and module-based Lone Wolf Foundation. So Foundation is the core of everything, and offshoots of that is Transact, is Relationships, is Authentisign, and ZipForm is still connected to that Foundation product, but that's still going to take you back into Zip. Foundation is an ecosystem of transaction management, signature management, relationship management. There's also Boost, which does digital ads. That's not a member benefit, but it is one of the spokes of that wheel that is Foundation. And Foundation has a very informative dashboard that consolidates all of that information into one place, so we can see where we're at with our contacts, where we're at with our transactions. Relationships is deeply, deeply integrated into the the Transact platform as well. So in the CRM, we can see the offers and listings that we have with our clients. We can set up to-dos and tasks and take notes. And there's a history of everything that's been happening with that contact, whether it's a signature or a transaction, whether it's a drip campaign with emails, whether it's phone calls. You can hook up services like easy texting and be able to text our clients from within that Lone Wolf product. There's a lot of integrations with here. Lone Wolf is handling the training for relationships specifically because they have a whole team that just does CRM training, and they are very, very fantastic when it comes to that. There's a lot of options, and I'm not going to go too far into the CRM because that's out of my scope, if you will. But I do want to mention that is the newest member benefit for 2026. Now, we still have individual training that is available. I know this says ZipForm training. That's just kind of the name of it. But we do have individual training sessions that are available for purchase on the store on car.org. One of the comments that we got, if you will, was the webinars are great. The zip tips are great. The contact center, the hotline is great, but I need some hand holding. And we said, great. Okay, let's figure that out. So we can provide you, we can sell you, if you will, a 2-hour training session that's just you. If you want to have one other person on it, we can accommodate that. But generally, these are individual training packages. We'll reach out to you a few days before the session. We'll say, okay, what do you want to work on? We'll have some demos, or we'll be a little bit more prepared for the exact stuff that you want to talk about. This has been far more popular than I expected it to be. We've sold about a dozen of these so far, and the feedback has been overwhelmingly positive. Sometimes you just need a little bit of extended time with one of our CAR experts like myself or my associate Leslie, and we'll record the session. It will be a Zoom meeting, not a webinar. So we'll both have our mics open. You can share your screen. We can go through any problem that you're having with whether it's ZipForm or Transact or AuthentiSign, any of the member benefit Lone Wolf products, except for the CRM. So if you do want that extra level of support and training, we can provide that for you, okay? I do need to talk about the California Association Realtors Dispute Resolution Center as well. The CAR Realtor Dispute Resolution Center is designed specifically for real estate professionals. This service provides mediation and arbitration options that can help resolve conflicts quickly, fairly, and at a fraction of the cost of going to court. Using the center not only saves time and money, but also preserves the professional relationships by focusing on solutions instead of blame. It's an important resource for realtors and their clients when disputes arise during a transaction. If you want to get a hold of them, you can reach out to them on the website, by email, or on the phone. Definitely, when things go sideways, there are people that you can turn to, okay? Additional training and support. We have 5 webinars that we put on every month: basics, advanced, paperless transactions. We do in office hours, and we do basics, advanced, paperless, digital signature, and office hours. I got myself tripped up. All of our webinars are recorded. You'll get a link to the recording the following day. This QR code here will get you to not only the registration page, but on that registration page are all of the recording links from the last 60 days. These are hour-long sessions. If you're looking for more bite-sized specific content, we have our YouTube playlist called Zip Tips. I am working on Transact tips as well. I'm starting a new playlist for the Transact tips aside from the Zip tips. I'll probably link them together in some way on the car YouTube page. But I was told as a realtor, if you get the same question from 3 different clients, make a video about it. And I took that into this job. As a realtor, you get asked a lot of the same questions. Why do I need a pre-approval? How does it work once we submit our offer? What happens when I list my house? What are the next steps? You're going to get a lot of the same questions from clients. I get a lot of the same questions from you, from realtors. And I said, okay, great. I don't want to leave people hanging. If it's 10:30 at night and there's no one that you can call and you really need some hand holding on how to send a digital signature packet or how to use that new member benefit that like Record Connect a few years ago, how to add a transaction coordinator, how to buy the AIR commercial form library in your individual member benefit account, how to do things in the account. Anytime a new feature comes out, anytime I see in the call center, the contact center at CAR, I start seeing trends about the topics that are coming in, I'll make a video about it. I'll make it available. There's about 50 videos on there now. They're all 2-3 minutes long, hyper focused on features inside of ZipForm and inside of Transact. I'm a marketing guy. I love making these videos. It makes me happy to have to provide resources to you that you can watch over and over and over, or slow it down or speed it up, or maybe just want to mute it and watch it because you don't want to hear my sultry voice. I understand. We have resources that are available for you. Okay. The customer contact center at CAR. These are CAR employees that are waiting by the phone 8:30 to 4:45 to help you. Whether it's a membership issue, you're looking for ZipForm help, you're looking to purchase a publication, maybe purchase a class, you're looking for the legal hotline. The contact center is extremely, extremely versed in all aspects of your membership. If it's a ZipForm question specifically that they can't answer within a few minutes, or maybe it's a little bit too technical for them, they're going to send it up to me or my associate Leslie. Leslie and I are your liaison between Lone Wolf, the software company, and you, the member. We know how to speak the language to get your problem fixed. And what I mean by that is a lot of times realtors call in and they say, I'm seeing this screen and it says this, and I don't really, this is the problem. They think that they know what the problem is. And like I said earlier, 99% of the things that people call in about are user error, just honest user error. Most of the time, you aren't able to articulate exactly what's happening. The contact center is not really sure how to help you. They're going to send it up to me. I like to jump on a quick Zoom call. You can share your screen and I can kind of poke around. We can usually knock things out in about 3 minutes. If it is something truly that needs to be fixed, I can submit a ticket on your behalf to Lone Wolf. I know how to articulate what the problem is to get it fixed quickly and efficiently. Okay. This is one of the problems that people have with the contact center at Lone Wolf, because their call center is in the Philippines after hours. It's offshore. These are very surface level contact center employees. They're good at what they do, but what they do is very limited. That brings me to my next point, is that there's a big difference between training and support. When something's broken, you need support. If you don't know how to do something, you need training. We have training resources, whether it's the webinars, the zip tips, the contact center can help you with kind of the easy stuff for training. The contact center at CAR is the intersection between training and support. If it is something broken and you call into the contact center, they're going to submit a ticket on your behalf to Lone Wolf, and they're going to make sure that gets fixed. If it's a training issue, they're going to send it to me or get you to one of our webinars, one of our PDF guides, one of our zip tips. We're going to make sure that you get the training or support that you need. The Lone Wolf line is a support line. They don't know how to walk you through the process of digital signatures or how to use MLS Connect or to add forms and things like that. They're very, very surface level. I can't get into my account. I don't know how to reset my password. I'm getting an error when I try to click on this. It's giving me this weird error. They are there to submit tickets to level 2 support in the middle of the night when you need to talk to someone. So just temper your expectations when it comes to the Lone Wolf support. But please call the CAR customer contact center line. We pay a lot of money to be realtors in California, but it is worth it. We have unbelievable member benefits. All right. I will remove myself from my soapbox. I'm so sorry. We have 1, 2, 3. We have 7 people in here. No questions so far. So let's talk about things. We are in ZipForm. I want to point out that everyone should have this app switcher. This is called the client switcher, if you will. We have access to Authentisign, our contacts, relationships, our Transact, and then we have our legacy product, which is ZipForm. Now you see how the legacy products are not really connected to everything here. This is Lone Wolf Foundation. Home would be the dashboard for Foundation. We still have access to ZipForm. If you are only seeing contacts in here, it's probably because you have your state association selected and you only have contacts in ZipForm. And that's not what you should be seeing. Make sure that you are always looking at your personal client here. That will have all of your member benefits attached to it. very common question that I get probably twice a week. I only see contacts. Do you have your name selected? No. Perfect. Select your name. Awesome. Now, like I said before, I have offers for Ricardo here, and they're kind of just everywhere. I have ones for Ricardo down here. Nothing is connected to one another. When I'm in Transact, the first place I land is the deal tracker. Okay. The deal tracker is a Kanban style view of where we are at with each client in the process. This is set up to be kind of a sub dashboard for just the transaction side. So when I am at the grocery store and I meet someone in line that's talking about real estate, I just strike up a conversation. Let's say that let's make this nice and small. So like I'm on my phone. Okay. This is what it would look like on my phone. Nice and tall and skinny. I have this plus sign here. When I click on that, it's going to ask me if I want to start a new transaction or add a new relationship opportunity. Relationship opportunities are just that. It's a new relationship. This is a new buyer or seller opportunity. When I add that relationship opportunity, I can add someone from my contacts, but like in this scenario, this is not someone that I have in my contacts. So I can add them very quickly. First name, last name, and email address. That's all I need to get this started. I can ask them, hey, you're a buyer. What stage are you in? Or you're actively searching for property? Are you getting qualified? What's your time frame? They're looking in the next 1 to 3 months. I would say that they're a warm lead. You can fill in all this information, click save, and it's going to add them to your warm prospects here. This is a really easy way to keep track of everything that's been going on. But like I said, let's see David here. David was looking up in Northern California. We wrote a few different offers for David. The one that we're actively waiting for a response is on Matthews in Berkeley, but he also wrote offers on a place on 17th Street, a place in Pleasant Avenue, a place on Pioneer Avenue. These ones fell through. One of them got canceled. I can see all of the other offers that I wrote for him from one tile here. I can also look at this from a transaction view. That'll give me a little bit different view. I can do this in card view. So Kevin, he shows up twice because I added him in a weird way. But Robert, Gary, Elaine, Stacy, I have Adelaide, I have David, Tamara. I can see all of the clients that I'm currently working with. Their name is top billing here. And then what property we're currently working on. So Kevin was looking in Montebello, and I can see that he was also looking on Verdugo Avenue, one on Elmwood. All of the offers that I've written for him are showing up here. So let's get rid of some of these transactions here. Let's see. All right, let's go to the deal tracker. So I have, who do I have that I haven't used in a while? Let's go with Kayla. Kayla wrote this offer in Fairfield on Taft. Okay. But we actually are going to drop that one. This one didn't go through. We actually didn't proceed with actually submitting this offer. So we're just going to mark this as rejected. Let's just say we rejected it. This first thing it's going to ask me is, are you still working with this client? I'm going to say, yeah, I am still working with the client. And then it's going to ask me, okay, what details from the last offer are we bringing into this new offer? So obviously my information, Kayla's information, we don't need the listing agent or the listing broker. The address and listing information are going to be different. The offer details are going to be different, but the paperwork, the offer documents, the buyer documents, those are all going to be the same. We have same paperwork as before. So we're going to reset and copy. So Kayla specifically, this is Kayla. I'm kind of confused. Kayla specifically, her job relocated her down to North San Diego County, let's say. So first thing I'm going to do is import listing data. This is what we would refer to in ZipForm as MLS Connect. This is going to give me all the same MLS Connect options that I currently have, as well as the tax source. This is what we would know as Record Connect, pull from public record. I'm going to be pulling from the LA MLS because that's the one that I'm looking at right now. And let's say that this property in Oceanside. So we have this property in Oceanside. I brought in the address, city, state, and zip by using the MLS number. When I look at the property here, it brought in the photo. It brought in the list price, 474, the tax ID, the year built. The list date was back in July. Oh, wow. That's been on the market for 5 years. This is a good one to write on. This is a residential property. Looking good here. Now I can work on the parties. Who are parties to this transaction? There's me and there's Kayla. I think probably because it's been on the market so long, it didn't bring in the listing agent or anybody else, but that's okay. Now I can work on the offer itself. This was listed for 474. We're going to come in at 480 because we want this house. Deposit's going to be 10,000. Offer date is going to be today. An offer is going to expire tomorrow because we want to get a response very quickly. So all of this, purchase price, deposit, offer date, expirations, this is all pretty comfortable. We've seen this before. We're familiar with this. This here, the conditions, this is something new that's in Transact. And I tend to like this. What I like about this workflow in Transact is that it asks you a lot of the questions that need the background information, stuff that we need to fill in up front so that our actually filling out the offer itself is that much quicker. This doesn't translate to the offer document itself, but it does translate to the timeline in our transaction so that we can manage things a lot easier. So for example, I know that Kayla has a condition that she needs to sell her house up north to move down to Oceanside. So her due date for this is going to be 21 days after the offer acceptance. She's selling her house. Selling home in Fairfield. All right. I'm adding that condition. So this is not going to translate to the offer document itself, but my transaction management system, this TMS, is going to have this as a condition so that once I add that offer acceptance date, my timeline will now have populated a sale of buyer property contingency. I will add this to the contract itself, but maybe I have something else in here. Like I want to specify that my appraisal contingency is going to be due 10 days after the offer acceptance date. Maybe I want to be more specific with some of my conditions, that I have a pre-close inspection of work completed. And this is going to be due 7 days before the closing date. So I can put all kinds of conditions in here, and these will be added to the timeline once these dates get added. Okay. Thought I saw a question come in. Okay. Someone said, I don't even know how to get to this screen. I've never used ZipForm. Okay. Well, let's talk about that. If you are in ZipForm and you start a new transaction, let's say. When I start a new transaction, I'm prompted with this screen here. Do you want to start the transaction in Transact? Do you want to start it in ZipForm? If you're not seeing this, you may be seeing a blue banner at the top that says getting started with the newest iteration of transaction management. Experience the future of transaction management. I don't remember what the wording actually says, but there are a few different ways that you can try out this new platform. Right now, this is ZipForm that we're looking at. We have options to flip between ZipForm and Transact. These are both transaction management platforms. They are parallel. They're not different iterations of each other. They're parallel, separate platforms, but they will exist in concert with each other for the next 18 months or so. It's the plan. Okay. Hope that helps with your question. But getting to Transact, we can use the app switcher. We can log in directly at okay, you want me to go even farther back. Perfect. So if you're on car.org, you should be seeing the realtor sitting on the house. To the left of that realtor are 3 circles. One of them says access realtor secure transaction. I'm going to click on the word transactions. You can click on access now to get to ZipForm. That's going to open the interstitial page that you'll probably have to sign in first. Then it will validate your membership. And once this flips to continue, it's going to open up a big maximized monolithic window that doesn't have a back button. It doesn't have tabs. And that should bring you into ZipForm. Now, this platform, you notice that it took me into Transact directly. The platform is smart enough to know the last place that you were is where it's going to log you in the next time. So if you've only been in ZipForm, it's going to take you directly back to ZipForm. But that is how we get to our ZipForm. Then we can navigate to one of our other apps, if you will. Okay. That is that. If you're having trouble getting in, email me offline and we can work one-on-one to figure it out. Okay. So I have Kayla showing up here as an active client. Let's see, why didn't it apply my template? Let's apply. Templates are gone. Quality template. Okay, let's start from a different spot here. I'm going to delete this. There's Kayla. We'll start from scratch here. So from the deal tracker, I didn't have Kayla in here. Perfect. So we're going to add a new opportunity because we finally got a hold of Kayla. She wants to. So Kayla is my newest buyer. I got her information from someone else. She is getting qualified. She's a warm lead. She's looking in US dollars in the USA. She wants to look in Oceanside, California. She's looking at least a 2-bedroom, 2-bath. Her budget is between 350 and 650. She wants to move soon. Met her. So now she's a warm prospect. She's looking at Oceanside. When I open this up, I can start the agreement right from here. This is going to take me through the wizard of creating a whole new transaction. You'll notice that this, for a purchase, is going to ask me, okay, what type of transaction are we looking at? What type of property are we looking at? What offer details? Who is a party to this transaction? If I choose listing, there's nothing about offers in here. The wizard is going to change depending on the path that I'm taking, whether it's a listing, whether it's a purchase, if it's a lease or a lease listing, the process is going to be slightly different. Because I added Kayla as a buyer in here, it already knows that I want to start a purchase. I can import the listing data in. I'm going to grab that listing ID once again. and I'm going to apply my template. My template has lots of paperwork in it, and it's got some organization to it. I have a folder for closing documents. I have a folder for offer documents, folder for agency relationships. I've added Stacy, who is my transaction coordinator, so that I don't have to add her every single time. And I also have a few to do, some tasks, if you will, that have due dates in a checklist called offer. This is get the pre-approval, get the proof of funds. Next step in the widget is the property. Now, again, this is going to pull up the address, city, state, zip, the county, the list price, the tax ID. Is going to bring in a little photo here. See a residential property. Next thing it's going to ask me, okay, what are the details of the offer? So once again, we're going to come in at 480. 10,000. Offer date is going to be today. Tomorrow, we don't have an acceptance, a walkthrough. We're going to add that buyer sale of property and just leave that one on there. For acceptance. Boom. Okay. No other questions? Let's use the Q&A and not the chat, if you will. Let's use the Q&A box. You must have some other questions. Okay. So now we have me, we have Stacy, we have Kayla. So it brought in my TC because that was in my template. And now we can create the transaction. So you can see all my paperwork shows up here. I can see very quickly which of these are PDFs and which ones are forms just by the color and because it tells me on the little thumbnail what type of document it is. Everything is broken into folders here. And rather than like in Zip, where we would click into a folder and we'd have to back out of the folder, they've chosen to display this as an accordion so that when we are in a folder, we can collapse them and we can keep ourselves nice and organized. And when we open things, we're not leaving all of the other documents. We're able to see everything kind of all at once, expanded or collapsed. We still have tools like upload by email. If you're familiar with email to transaction that we had in Zip, this is a unique email that anything that I send to this email, the body of the email will be a PDF. Any attachments will be sent to the transaction as well. They will file themselves into their own folder. And if you are using this to the best of your ability, by the end of the transaction, you will have a very robust communication log. Let me give you two use cases for this. So if you have an assistant, you have a TC, you have someone that works with you that you want all correspondence to be you want them to be CC'd on all correspondence. This is the same type of thing. You can CC the transaction on all of your email correspondence, whether you're talking to your buyer, the other agent, an appraiser, an inspector, talking about home warranties, whoever you are emailing about this particular transaction, you can CC this email and all of that communication will be logged in the transaction. Another simpler use case, if you will, let's say that you're sitting at lunch, you're on your phone, and you see an escrow amendment come through, and you think, I need to sign that. I'm not ready to sign it right now. You can forward that email to the transaction. By the time you get back to your computer, back to your desk, that document is now in your transaction, and you can act upon it. You can send it for signature. How much time are you saving? A minute, 2 minutes? But we're skipping some steps there. So if I didn't email it to the transaction, when I get back to my desk, I have to remember that I got that email. I have to open up that email, download it, upload it into your transaction platform, and then deal with it. 5 steps. If I am forwarding it to the transaction, I'm going to forward it to the transaction. And then when I get back to my desk, I'm going to send it for signature. I'm cutting out a lot of the remembering, downloading, uploading. So this is redundant and repetitive actions that we don't want to have to do. At the end of the year, when you've saved 2 or 3 hours, you'll thank me. In the meantime, I still have a couple of minutes. This is a very useful tool. You don't need to memorize this email. Save it in your contacts, your phone, your Outlook, your Gmail, whatever you use as the name of the address of the property, the client and the street name, something like that, that's going to be easy for you to CC them on correspondence via email. Every transaction has its own email address. Every one of them. This is unique to this particular transaction. This is a very useful tool. I suggest that you use it. If you want to add more folders, we can add new folders from up here. If we want to add paperwork, you'll notice that we don't have a button that says add forms. We have add paperwork. And there's a reason for that. When we add paperwork, we're not only adding forms, we're also having the ability to upload files. And what type of files can we have? We can do PDFs, Word documents, Excel, and then we have a whole bunch of image formats. And you may ask, well, why would I be uploading images? When I take a listing and I pay hundreds of dollars to have very, very high quality, incredible photos taken of the house I'm listing, once I've uploaded to the MLS, once I've created my marketing materials, once I just need kind of a spot to dump the photos, I don't want them to take up space on my hard drive. I don't want them to take up space in the cloud space that I pay for. I might as well dump them into the Lone Wolf platform, whether it's Transact or ZipForm. Let them foot the bill for the storage. And then in 2 years, let's say 3 months, we get another listing in that same neighborhood. We know where the photos are, and we can create I sold this one. I'm selling this one. I'll sell yours. We can create some other marketing material, but we know where those assets are. This is helpful. Now, you can take that advice. You can leave that advice, do whatever you need to do. I used this. I dumped all the photos into my transaction, and I knew exactly where they were a year later, 2 years later, when I wanted to create a marketing piece of some sort. I knew where the photos were. Take it if you will. This makes it very simple, though, to move forward. So let's say that we wrote this offer, we got it signed, and it didn't go through. They didn't accept it. We can mark this as rejected. And again, it's going to ask us, are you still working with this client? Yep. What is still the same about this? The conditions, the sale of buyer property, are still going to be there. So we're going to keep those conditions in there. All the same paperwork here. We're going to reset and copy. They're actually going to look, instead of Oceanside, they're going to write an offer on this place in San Juan Capistrano. So now I've started a new listing, or sorry, a new offer. I carried over some of the conditions, like the sale of buyer property. This was listed for $1 million, out of their price range, but we'll deal with that. So we are going to write this offer at $1.1 million. Do $20,000 deposit. Offers today, expires tomorrow. Still have that condition in there. Maybe we want to add that other condition of pre-closed walkthrough. The date's going to be 7 days before the closing date. So now we have a couple conditions that are tied to the closing date. We have a couple of conditions that are tied to the offer acceptance. Now, where do those go? They go on to the timeline. So our timeline is going to show the date that this was listed, the date of our offer. This is asking that I get the proof of funds today on June 9th, and says that the offer is going to expire tomorrow. If I were to add an offer acceptance date of, let's say, the 11th, and I go back to my timeline here, we now have offer acceptance. We have to get the pre-approval. We have sale of buyer's property. I think to get pre-approval was tied to the off 15 days. I meant to make it 1 day. Actually, let's go on the offer acceptance. All right, so our offer acceptance is today. Get the pre-approval. Sale of buyer's property is 23 days away because I set the acceptance date to 2 days from now. Our timeline starts filling in. When we set a closing date, say that we set it for the end of the month, now on that timeline, we have our sale of buyer property. We have our pre-close walkthrough. Our timeline will still start filling in as we add those transaction dates that have relative due dates. I love this timeline feature. I really do, for a lot of reasons, not just these relative due dates, but also when I would go out and when I would visit the property with my client. Sometimes the client would say, a couple weeks later, what was the date that we went out to, look at the property? When did we do that? And so, okay, great. Now, as I'm showing property, as I'm going to visit, I'm going to have a timeline event. I'm going to add an event that says visited property with buyer and let's say an inspector inspection. What date was that? We did that on the 12th. I can add those timeline dates in there, so I'll be able to see all that stuff. Good question. Someone asked, is there a way to email the timeline to all parties? There is. It's a bit of a roundabout way, but one of the things I love about Transact is the way that exports work with our, they're very usable, is my point. So back in Zip, when we exported a transaction, we got a lot of ZFX file types, file extensions that were only usable in Zip. So really, it was to get it out of Zip and import it back into either the same Zip account or a different Zip account. That wasn't really a usable file. I wouldn't call that an export, if you will. It was kind of a move from one transaction to the other. This allows for a very nice export. It's going to let me know when the export is ready, but I'll keep an eye out for it. But yes, there is a way to email the timeline to all parties. It's in PDF form. We'll take a look at that. Now they've broken up the to-dos and the timeline into two separate headings here. Back in Zip, we had tasks or checklist. We had summary, parties, documents, checklist. And the checklists were timelines. It was tasks. It was kind of all combined into one. And I think it got a bit confusing. As you've probably noticed, if you've been using Zip for a while, there's a lot less buttons in Transact. Far, far less to get confused about what does that button do. I don't want to click on that. There's not as much for you to fumble around with. When we're in the paperwork, you might notice that there's not a print icon or a download or like any action items. But when I select documents, we get this whole menu that shows up down here to open it in the form editor, get it signed, email it, download it, print it, delete it. And if you see, I have 3 documents selected. If I click that X, it's going to deselect all of them. It's like the unselect button. Works pretty well. Okay, where's my... Perfect. So I got the email inviting me to export my transaction. And when I open up the folder here, it has not only the rejected offer, but also the new offer. And this is a very usable file. In the transaction details, it's a PDF. Let me pull over. So this is going to have the whole transaction overview, what lost deals we had, who it was exported by. It's got all of the listing information for the current transaction that we're in. We have a list of all of the paperwork, and we have a list of all the to-dos, and we have the timeline, the list date, the offer date, get the pre-approval. We have descriptions. So this is a way that you would be able to break out that timeline and be able to keep that in your file if you want to export this out and have the documents. One of the great things about the way that this export, though, is that all of the paperwork is in PDF. It's usable. This tells me very big words, form. This is the editable version of it. It's no longer editable, but this is the original one. Once you get things signed, they will just be PDFs. This is also very important that we are naming and renaming our files to keep ourselves organized, if you will. This is a very usable export. If you really wanted to get your files out of the platform and archive them somewhere else, this is a very useful tool. It works very, very well. So that is the way that the export works. Answer that. Any other questions? Okay, so we are working on our paperwork. We have an offer that didn't get accepted. Let's say that we do get this offer accepted. I can mark this as accepted. It will now show as under contract. Back on the deal tracker, our under contract on, we've moved from warm to active to under contract. This is moving us through the process with our client. We can see everywhere that they're going to be. We're under contract and it says we're closing on June 30th. When I open this up, if I need to move some of the dates, like the closing date ends up being, you know, the 7th of July, we get delayed. I'm going to take possession on July 7th. Final walkthrough should be a week before. We're going to go on the 1st. We can move all that stuff, and then our closing dates will show up. You notice that the closing date, because it was less than 30 days from now, was red before. Now it's gray because we have a little bit of time before we enter that 1 month mark. This is a very usable platform. It really is. It's clean. It's it flips things on its head, like I said before. But it is very, very usable. We have a few minutes. Any other questions? All right. Can a transaction checklist be created? So in our templates, let's look at my buyer template. Templates are broken into paperwork, parties, and to-dos. The to-dos is our transaction checklist. So we can add a whole new list. So we have this one that's called offer. Let's call this one closing. That'll create that. Now we can add a new checklist item. We are going to schedule inspection. Is that due? Maybe we don't want it to be due. We just want it to be a to-do. But I want to be reminded about this. Oh, I will leave the reminder off. It's going to be due. Two days after the offer acceptance date. It's going to tell us to schedule our inspections. We can add another to-do that says call lender. Then not to be due. We can add whatever details that we want. We can start building out our checklist. Now you notice that we had a due date and a reminder. So if I want to say that this is due 2 days after the offer acceptance, but I want to get a reminder 2 days before that, on a task level, I can set reminders and due dates. That's different than the way that we had things in Zip. Zip had just a due date, and you had a general across the entire account. How long before the due date do you want to get notified? Because there are some things in here that you know they're due on a certain day, but I want to get reminded a week before. And there's other ones that I don't really want to get reminded of the due date. I just want to have the due date in here. We have options here. Can more than one person be reminded? At this point, no. I just saw a demo of the assistant, the transaction coordinator role that we're going to have in here. That will allow for notifications to be to multiple people. But as of right now, this just alerts you, the agent, the owner of the account. Like I said, they broke out the timeline and the to-dos. They're two separate things to avoid confusion. These templates are very basic: paperwork, parties, and to-dos. So as you are building out your templates, you can really focus on the hyper focus things in here, because as we are creating a new transaction, when we apply our template, we can choose what not to include from that template. So if I don't want my closing checklist to be part of that, if I Maybe I already had the buyer broker agreement signed outside of the system. I can not include that agency relationship folder. I can pick and choose what I want. So I can get very hyper specific in my templates about what I want to apply, what I don't want to apply. I can kind of on the fly make changes like that. You'll notice that as the parties that I have in here, I don't have myself as a party in my template. We did add ourselves to our templates in ZipForm. We don't need to add ourselves to the templates here in Transact because based on the type of transaction that we're creating, it will know that if I choose listing, that I'm going to be the listing agent. If I choose a lease, I'm going to be the buyer's agent in this case. So it knows what role I will play based on the type of transaction that we are creating. Okay. Can a transaction checklist from Zip be copied to Transact? That is a very noodly question, and I want to answer that in the best way possible. There is a tool to migrate your templates to Transact, but I want to be very, very specific. So let's say that I wanted my listing template and my purchase template. This button here that says migrate to Transact, this is a bit deceiving. Okay. It will migrate. It will add a new add a new template to Transact based on what you have in Zip, but it is only going to bring over the forms. It's not going to bring over the checklist. It's not going to bring over your tasks. Placeholders don't exist in Transact. So really what you're going to get is the list of forms that you have in your template that will carry over into Transact. If that's enough for you, just to say, hey, I don't want to have to pick and choose all these forms. I just want them to be available in Transact. You can do that. I would strongly suggest that you create new templates in Transact. You will find that you will have more success in using Transact if you've created new templates, because there are different directions you can go in with it. There's new and better organization methods. The workflow is a bit different than it was in Zip. The transaction templates in Zip don't work perfectly to apply to Transact. So my advice again would be create new ones. Figure out something new and exciting to do in your new templates and leave these Zip ones behind. I know that that's not the answer that a lot of people I talk to want. They want to just have a carbon copy of it, but they're not. It's kind of apples and oranges at this point. It's kind of a square peg in a round hole, if you will, which I wish I had a better answer for you. Okay. We are right at time. I will give a few minutes if there's any additional questions that are coming in. These are great questions about the transaction templates. What are some other best practices that I can tell you about? Transact is very clean. It's very easy to use. We have the deal tracker, we have transactions, we have templates, but then we have this signing tab. This is every signing that you have in your entire account will all show up here. Okay. So we can see all of our current and outstanding, if you will, signings. So I was going to mention why we have a ZipForm tab here. So when Zip goes away, when we don't have this legacy product anymore, we will still be able to see all of our old ZipForm transactions. And let's say that we opened up this transaction in Lake Forest here. You'll notice that at the very top of the screen, we don't have dashboard forms, transactions, templates, all that stuff. We don't have a profile up here. There's no back to list button. This is a very isolated sandbox that our transaction is existing in. When Zip goes away as a forward consumer-facing product, we will still have access to all of our old ZipForm transactions for archival purposes, not for new business, but to look back on. The same way that if we printed them out and they were in a file cabinet, they're not usable anymore. They're just for reference. We will still have access to all of our transactions for as long as the retention period lasts. Okay. How many agents are using Zip versus Transact right now? the numbers of Transact users are growing literally every day. The adoption was very, very slow going. The last few months has been significantly more. I don't have exact numbers, but the daily users of Transact are growing every single day. Like I said, my advice, you can flip flop between the two platforms. You can go between Transact and ZipForm, and you can continue to use Zip if you want. My suggestion, my advice would be start a transaction in Transact, see it through. I don't think you're going to have a bad feeling about it at the end. I think by the time you get through a transaction, you're going to go, okay, I get it. It's really just kind of shifting your perspective of how these the focus of this transaction management platform. It's very easy to use. It's intuitive. The form editor is the same as you've been using. The signing platform is literally the same as the one you've been using in ZipForm. The module for Authentisign is the same in ZipForm and Transact. We have been using the new Authentisign for 2 years now. Some of the buttons have moved around, but aside from that, all of the same features are still there. If you do have questions after the fact, you can reach out to me, Leslie, or Ed. I want to thank the North San Diego County Association of Realtors for having me out. Email me if you have additional questions, and thank you all for being here. I appreciate all of you. Take care.